Mr. Director, was Donald Trump under investigation during the campaign?
Same answer as before. I'm not going to answer that.
Is he under investigation now?
I'm not going to answer that. Please don't overinterpret what I've said. As the chair and ranking know, we have briefed them in great detail on the subjects of the investigation and what we're doing, but I'm not going to answer about anybody in this forum.
Joining us now is the man you just saw questioning the FBI director yesterday, member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and ranking member of the subcommittee on the CIA, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. Thank you for being on the show this morning.
Congressman, what did you learn yesterday?
Well, we've long been concerned about the dots that are connecting Donald Trump and his deep personal, political, financial ties to Russia. And now I think we're starting to see a convergence with the Russian interference campaign. And the director confirmed that by saying there is an investigation, there are U.S. persons being investigated, and they include members of the campaign.
The Washington Post's editorial this morning said the Republicans on the committee seem to be slavishly following the cues of the president, who, while failing to retract the accusation against Mr. Obama, is seeking to direct attention elsewhere. Were the Republicans trying to distract from the key point at hand yesterday, that Russia and the Trump administration may have colluded together during the campaign?
I think they learned the wrong lesson. I mean, the FBI director came to Congress under extraordinary circumstances, said, look, I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to tell you this.
I don't
but,
think he was.
There's an investigation going on. And then they focused on the leaks, which are important. But to talk about the leaks while he's saying that the president of the United States and his team are being investigated, another country attacked us with this interference campaign, and that was just over their head. I think they're missing an opportunity for us to unite around this and move forward.
Congressman, where does this go now? We all watched with complete fascination yesterday as you listened to Comey. Comey pleaded for a chance to complete his investigation, but the country now is intensely interested. What does your committee do, and what should the public expect from you?
We've heard from the easy witnesses, right? We've heard from the director and Admiral Rogers. The harder witnesses are going to be people like Michael Flynn, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, bringing individuals in who are actually witnesses to what was going on, and finding if there's consensus there among Republicans to bring those individuals in, as well as bringing in documents that will also help us, like the president's tax returns.
What do you think might have happened?
Well, I think what we are seeing is that as the interference campaign is going on, individuals are going over to Russia, like Carter Page. Roger Stone is intimating that an attack is going to happen against John Podesta's emails. And so I think this is a convergence, not coincidences.
So yesterday we had this bombshell from the head of the FBI, who clearly didn't want to do it, but felt compelled at this point. Was it the tweets, Joe? If the president hadn't tweeted that Saturday morning, would we be?
No, we would not have been there. Yesterday would not have taken on the importance that it took on. And here's just a note for reporters. Stop talking about Donald Trump's tweets as distractions. Donald Trump's tweets are actually the main events in some cases. David Ignatius, it was Donald Trump's lie about Barack Obama that made Lindsey Graham demand that James Comey come to the Hill, testify, and tell them what they know. And Lindsey said, we actually are the ones that have authority over the Justice Department. You all come to Capitol Hill and tell us the truth. So Donald Trump's tweet 3 Saturdays ago is what actually led to this.
I think you're right, Joe. I think Trump's accusations, first against a former president, accusing him of illegal activity, and then his accusation against the spy service of our closest ally, Britain. I think those things were intolerable to people in the intelligence community, and I think to a broad array of politicians. And it was the fact that Trump wouldn't back down. He wouldn't ease off, but he kept doubling down. Every time he was courted, said that's not true. He'd come up with another reason why it was true. And I think finally he left no alternative but this testimony.
Well, and Mika, the problem with Donald Trump has lived in New York City. He's had 2 or 3 tabloids and some entertainment magazines to work.
Where he called up and pretended to be someone else.
When he had a battle with Rosie O'Donnell, and I'm not joking. Yeah. He could bully his way through any battle.
Called her disgusting names.
And he could do whatever he wanted to do, and he got through to the other side, and all news was good news, and his ratings went up. What he still doesn't understand, what we've been trying to explain on this show for months now, is he's in a different league. And he he's damaging himself every day. Yesterday happened because of the tweet 3
Because
weeks
of those
ago.
tweets on Saturday morning. Think about it. Four or five tweets that he just threw out there, seemingly for no reason, has turned everything upside down. Speaking of tweeting, the official POTUS Twitter account was occasionally posting during the hearings, the chaos yesterday, sharing sound bites favorable to the White House, including an exchange with Republican Chairman Devin Nunes, where the officials said they had no evidence that Russian cyber actors changed their vote tallies. The president's account tweeting, quote, "The NSA and FBI tell Congress that Russia did not influence electoral process." Democrat Jim Himes quickly asked the witnesses about the assertion.
Well, thanks to the modern technology that's in front of me right here, I've got a tweet from the president an hour ago. Is the tweet, as I read it to you, the NSA and FBI tell Congress that Russia did not influence the electoral process. Is that accurate?
Well, it's hard for me to react to that. Let me just tell you what we understand the state of what we've said is. We've offered no opinion, have no view, have no information on potential impact because it's never something that we looked at.
The assertion that you have told the Congress that there was no influence on the electoral process is not quite right.
Right. It certainly wasn't our intention to say that today because we don't have any information on that subject. And that's not something that was looked at.
So, Congressman, how extraordinary. A false tweet gets him in this position yesterday, and then in the middle of this, another false tweet.
What was he doing all day? Was he being the president, or was he watching his hearing?
This is easy. He was watching the hearing.
Yeah, and to the false tweet, I used to tell jurors when I was a prosecutor that if a witness deliberately lies about a material fact in an investigation, you can choose to disbelieve anything they say. That's an instruction that jurors are given every day by judges. So now the president's credibility on anything Russia is devastated. So anything he says going forward, I think the American people are not going
What
to
about the fact, it's been determined that these tweets are untrue, correct? Anybody at the table want to say that there's a shadow of a doubt or there's something we still need to wait for because they're trying to get an interview with the president?
Barack Obama did not tap.
Right.
With one or two fees, Trump Tower.
Isn't there something beyond, okay, we're going to move on and follow something else now? Isn't there defamation, lying as president? Isn't there something?
I think you'd have to ask Barack Obama, but I'm sure that more than one person suggested that Barack Obama would have a pretty good lawsuit against Donald Trump for defamation.
See you in court, right?
Yeah, see you in court. Mark Halperin, let's step back for 1 second here and just look at this from 30,000 feet. What does all of this do to the Trump presidency at this stage, 2 months in, with his ability to move forward with an agenda?
Well, look, there are two other big things happening this week. Gorsuch is on track to be confirmed. That will be probably one of the greatest successes President Trump will have, not just in his administration so far, but maybe in his term, getting a young Supreme Court justice on the court. So that's happening. But the other thing is the House vote tomorrow. Or Thursday on health care. Is this going to interfere with that? The president's going to be up here in a couple hours speaking to the House conference, trying to wrap up votes for that. I'm told that their vote count is not going particularly well, that they are not in as good shape as they'd like to be despite making changes yesterday. So that, to me, by Thursday night, Friday morning, we'll know whether this administration is, despite the Russia stuff, on track, or it has a really big problem with their legislative agenda. Congressman, I want to ask you about what you said. You very graciously said, well, Republicans had an opportunity they didn't take. I thought you all were on track to have a bipartisan hearing yesterday and an investigation. Is this bipartisan at all now? Will you all proceed, minority and majority, to try to get to the bottom of this, or yesterday ended that?
Yeah, there's going to be decision points going forward now because we're going to want to hear from those witnesses that I laid out earlier. We're going to want to see the president's tax returns.
But does the majority want to do that?
I hope so. I hope yesterday was a wake-up call for them that this is real and that they can't just bury their head in the sand and hope that this goes away. It's not going away, and the president is making it worse for them by constantly tweeting about it.
It's just gotten a lot bigger, actually. Congressman Eric Swalwell.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very
Great to have
much.
you here.
All right.